This is the Sensei Podcast, where we help you make sense of investments and financial markets, where we help you make sensible financial choices. I am your host, Ndwati Karanja. What does it mean to pay yourself first? I asked someone this question a few hours ago, and they told me it meant to treat yourself. And I could understand where they're coming from, because imagine for most of the month, you've probably been surviving on low funds. So by the time you get your income, you want to buy the things that you've been desiring, whether they are food, whether they are shoes, or something else. Without a doubt, it is good to enjoy yourself. However, that treating yourself after you get your salary is not paying yourself first, because that money is gone. It is in someone else's pocket. Paying yourself means making part of the money that you receive yours, so that you retain it, it becomes part of you. And that is what you're going to be talking about in this episode. I'm going to guide you on how to make sure that you're always paying yourself first every month. Connected to the concept of paying yourself first is the concept of a net cash flow. Let me explain. I think I've talked about this in a previous episode, but let me recap it for you. Let me use the example of a bodybuilder. Bodybuilders, before they go for a tournament, they usually go through a period called a bulking up phase. This is where they increase their mass, they increase their weight. During that time, they eat 7 to 8 times a day. And the reason for that is that so that as they work out, as they go about their activities, you're going to be burning part of the food that you are eating. However, they need to retain enough of that food so that it becomes muscle and so that they become big. That is exactly how you grow financially. You need to grow big by retaining part of the money that you make and investing it. And the difference between your income and your expenses is the net cash flow that you have. Let me say that again. The difference between your income and your expenses is going to be your net cash flow. And this amount is the amount that you use to pay yourself and grow financially. And therefore, if you are to pay yourself at all, you need to always have a positive cash flow. Your expenses should never exceed your income, and at the same time, your expenses should not equal your income perfectly, so that you are spending everything that you're getting. You need to leave aside enough money that you can retain, that you can invest, that you can use to build your financial muscles. So with that concept of the net cash flow and using that net cash flow to pay yourself, then you can understand what it means to pay yourself first. It means rather than saving what you have left over during a particular month, you first of all deduct that amount that you want to save and then spend the rest of the amount from your income on your other expenses. Let me use the example of a Fuliza that you might take on your phone. This is that overdraft facility that you have on a Safaricom line. When you have a Fuliza, anytime you receive money on that line, part of that money is used to pay off the loan balance that you have, the overdraft that you have, and then the rest is left to you. And it is the same with other types of accounts that you might have where you have taken a loan. And that kind of mindset is the one that you need to use when you're approaching this idea of paying yourself. The amount that you want to pay yourself with needs to be deducted from your income before you even start considering all these expenses that you have. And when you're budgeting, most of the time you usually start by budgeting for the essential expenses, then you go to your non-essential, then what is left over is what you're going to save. Sometimes you find that your expenses are taking up a significant amount of your income, so you do not have much left over to save. That kind of mindset is the one that keeps you from paying yourself first, from building your investments. The moment you put your expenses before your savings, it becomes hard for you to maintain that habit of paying yourself. Therefore, when you're creating your budget, you need to first of all deduct the amount that you need for saving. Then you go ahead and plan for the rest of the amount that you have on your other expenses. When you start, without a doubt, it's going to be difficult for you to do this, because for most of us, we have expenses that meet our income, if not exceeding it. And so that at the beginning, it's going to be very difficult for you to create this habit of, first of all, removing your savings, then spending the rest on your expenses. However, as time goes by and as your investments increase, you'll find that these sacrifices that you are making are going to be worthwhile. But you might then ask yourself, how much should you target to save? How much should you target to be deducting from your income and using it to pay yourself first? The first way that you could go is using a rule of thumb. And something that you might have heard of is the rule of 50, 30, 20 when allocating your income. Under this rule, 50% of your income goes to your essential expenses, things like your rent and your food. Then 30% goes into non-essentials, such as that include entertainment and other things. Then 20% goes to your savings. So under this rule of thumb, the amount that you use to pay yourself is going to be 20%. So immediately you receive your income, 20% of your income goes to your saving. Then you start planning with 80% to meet your expenses. So rather than it being the 50, 30, 20 rule, for us it's going to be the 20, 50, 30 rule, because paying yourself comes first. The other way that you can approach this is by taking a more engaged approach, where you first of all list all your financial goals, things that you would like to achieve over your lifetime. For example, how much money do you want to have by the time you're retiring? How much money do you want to save up for your children's education and all that? Then you prioritize them and then break them down into monthly amounts that you need to save for each of these goals. Then that amount that you come up with to meet those goals is what you use to pay yourself. Often it's going to be slightly higher than the 20% that you set aside using the rule of thumb. Maybe when you're starting, you might use the rule of thumb. However, as you develop, you could use this second method, because having a goal, having something that you're working towards is much more motivating than just going with a rule of thumb, something that you do not have an emotional connection to. So let me conclude. Paying yourself involves having money set aside that you're going to use for investment every month. And paying yourself first means taking that amount out of your income before you start considering other expenses that you might have. The amount that you might take out to pay yourself first could be the 20% that you come up with through the rule of thumb, or you could use the more engaged approach of listing your financial goals, breaking them down into monthly amounts, and using those amounts to guide you on the amount of money that you need to pay yourself with every month. Paying yourself first is a habit, and like any other habit, you develop it through patience and consistency. It might be tough at the beginning, without a doubt, but it is the only sure path to financial freedom. There are other ways that you might think that you can achieve financial freedom. For example, you might hope to get a windfall one day. You might hope to create an amazing company and sell it for huge amounts of money. However, those things are hopes. The surest way for you to achieve financial freedom is paying yourself first. This has been the Sensei Podcast. We release new episodes on Wednesdays and Fridays. Please subscribe and leave a comment on your favorite podcast provider. I am Ndwati Karanja. Until next time.